All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we're live back here, Let It Fly with T.O. I am Terrence Oglesby, your host. Talking a little bit about Clemson basketball. What a win last night against the Maryland Terrapins. Dominant all the way around. Ball pressure really bothered the Terrapins, and I kind of figured it would. If you guys went back and watched one of my pregame scouting reports of Maryland, you could kind of pick up that they had some guards that were oversized. When do I say oversized? They're trying to do some things as far as NBA teams are concerned to have all the switchability. But Nick Honor and Alamir Dawes are some problems for opposing point guards. Clemson Tigers played really well, not only offensively but defensively as well. Shot better, I think 9 of 20, which is right at 45%. An excellent performance by everybody involved. And it's something that I've actually began to forget. I forget to mention Amir Sims and how good he has been for this team, but he's been so good, so consistent for so long that I think a lot of Tiger fans are starting to understand what kind of player he is, and it's just a given. I also have my main man Faxon looking extremely sharp in today's attire. We're going to add a little bit of a different segment to today's show. I'm going to call it Big Fax Underrated Player of the Week. And he hit me up with some interesting information as far as that's concerned, because he stays up till like 4 in the morning and watches the West Coast Conference. I'm not that guy. He's finding all these gems. I don't know about him. Fax, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm ready to talk about the Clemson game, what the future's looking like, and obviously, blessed enough to get my own segment because of my psychotic tendencies to watch as much basketball as possible. So I'm very excited for today.
I love it. I love it. Maryland was a good team. We're going to start with that, and then we're going to do our TO's terminal. You're either flying or you're falling or you're coasting, cruising altitude. There's only one team in the cruising altitude portion, and I'm going to explain why that is. But Clemson, of course, is flying right now, playing extremely well. So we're going to talk about that. Going to do a small on-the-line segment. Facts, and we struggled a little bit with that one last week. I think we went 1-2. Georgia Tech, or I picked Georgia Tech to beat Kentucky. They were able to get that done, but we struggled on the other two. I can't remember what the other two picks were, but it was a bit of a toss-up.
Boston College game was one of them, and Florida just did not miss the whole game.
Yeah.
They scored 90 points on Boston College. Didn't feel like BC played that bad offensively, but defensively, definitely not great.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. And then we had one more, I think it was Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech has fallen off the map. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. And then we're going to look ahead a little bit to Alabama. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. Alabama, top 10 in the country in pace, and they don't hang on to it for very long. So we're going to get into them shortly. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about Maryland, Faxon.
Yeah.
What did you think about the game?
Well, Clemson played about as well as humanly possible in the first half. Fantastic defensive display game-wise. I mean, Maryland started hitting some shots late, but the game was never really in doubt.
This is a big win for Clemson, as I do think most Clemson fans might not think this Maryland team is great. This is a good team that will more than likely make the NCAA tournament, and this win and the Purdue win will look very good on Clemson's resume come March.
Well, one thing we did learn is how good the Big Ten actually is, and Purdue and Maryland both are potential tournament teams. It's weird. I think Maryland's a better team, but I also think that Purdue will beat them because of their switchability and some things like that. But the point guards really gave problems to Maryland all game. Starting off, 25 bench points is significant. Why do I say that? Clemson last year, when Amir Sims came off the floor, they fell through the floor. Them being able to be as deep as they are and to score as many points as they did was really impressive. Headed off by Nick Honor, who came in and just gave an instant ignite of energy. What do you think about that, Fax?
And I saw a stat that was posted by the Clemson basketball actual count that I think it's 4 consecutive games with 20-plus bench points for the Tigers. That is the longest streak of that number in the Brownell era. And it just really goes to show what we've been preaching since before the season. This is the deepest Tiger team we have seen in a long time. They can rotate in, they can rotate out. Everyone on the team is going to play, and everyone on the team has their role and can be effective. And, moving forward down the line in conference play, and postseason play potentially for the Tigers, this is something that's super valuable to have because, as you were saying, last year did not have that depth. And when we saw Clemson have their best season in recent memory, I would say would be the 2018 Sweet 16 run. I felt like that team did have depth, and we were comfortable playing players off the bench, whether that was Mark Denell, Amir Sims, Clyde Travis, freshman. And this team is deeper than that team, so it just really goes to show what the Tigers can do going forward.
Well, you look at Nick Honor, you look at Alex did a great job handling the ball. Are we having some problems back here? Everything?
We are.
Okay. Alex Hemingway also played well. Defensively, Alex Hemingway was excellent. Last year, he struggled a little bit because his body weight was not where it needed to be. He's about the same body weight, but he's shed a little bit of that baby fat. He's put on a little bit of muscle. Alex Hemingway is able to cut off angles because, one, he's an extremely smart player, and two, he's got more lateral quickness than a lot of us figured. Look, 15 points in the first half is phenomenal, no matter how you cut it. Did Maryland play great? No, but there were two defensive miscues the entire first half. One was on a backdoor cut towards the middle, got a wide open layup, and then Chase Hunter got beat along the baseline, and it ended up being a foul. Look, I'm willing to live with a team that's able to play consistent position defense the entire time. Clemson was able to do that. An incredible performance scheme-wise, knew what they were doing. Every shot that Maryland took for the entirety of the game, even when Clemson was struggling, was contested. And this guy right here, Amir Sims, has been about as good as a lot of people thought he was going to be, quite frankly. I forget about him because he's been such a consistent, stable force for the Tigers all season long and all his career, really. He did a fantastic job of holding the fort, breaking the press. Somebody tweeted me and said, hey, what's up with Clemson's press offense? Amir Sims wasn't in the floor. You get that ball to Amir Sims in the middle, and you're going to be able to do some serious damage because he can handle the ball and he can make decisions, Faxon.
Yes, and I definitely agree with all of those points that you just made. Amir Sims, best player on the team. There's no question about it. So valuable offensively and defensively, and also leads the team in points per game. You might not think that just by watching, but it seems like every game that Clemson plays, he has a monster game quietly. And, he had a couple of big buckets in this game to his credit. There's a reason he won the Space Coast Challenge MVP, hands down best player on the team, and legitimate national weapon going forward.
And another thing we didn't talk about as much with Amir, and I'm going to show some film in a second, but Amir's ability to get shots off at the end of the clock. He didn't have that the past 3 years. He's worked on his off the bounce game and done a really good job this season as far as creating for himself, creating shots for others, especially at the end of the clock. And it's something that they didn't have. I have a couple of clips, and I just wanted to emphasize the kind of activity that Clemson displayed all game long, especially in the first half. Nick Honor comes in, he gives a significant boost. And I'm going to show you right here. Look at the ball pressure right here. Look how uncomfortable Ayala is handling the ball. Max Prosper doing a great job. Also gave good minutes last night. Look at the switch. Alex Hemingway staying in front of the ball. Look at the activity off the ball. John Newman, you get a foul call, you get a travel call. Just unbelievable all the way around. Everybody's stunning. Everybody's active. If Clemson's able to play with this kind of activity all year, there's going to be serious problems for defenses.
And really, it just is an engagement thing. Like we said, Clemson has the depth to play guys in and out, rotating in and out so people don't get tired. We saw Nick Honor and Alamir Dawson. How Brad's kind of doing it is 4 to 5 minute bursts of each player, and both of them provide good defense, in my opinion. I do think Honor is the best defensive player on the team. When he came in the game last night, it was like an instant change defensively. Came down, hit a transition three, picked up full court, forced a turnover going into that TV timeout. And, Clemson can throw so many different looks at you and so many rotations that there isn't going to be able to team that can hunt a matchup versus Clemson, which we've seen in years past. You can't match up hunt against Clemson anymore.
And you see over the past couple of years, and Nick Honor's a sophomore. I think people forget that when they watch him play. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's going to be here for the next few years, as is Alamir Dawes, as is Chase Hunter. And they were able to show tremendous activity. We get those guys for 3 years. Small guys win. Look at Louisville with Rick Pitino. Look at UConn with Khalid El-Amin. If you're able to get up and pressure other guards and push people out, it's really good for the entirety of the shot clock. And Clemson's been fantastic defensively. I want to show this clip here. They got nervous. Maryland got nervous, and they started saying, hey, well, we're just going to put the 5 guy up, Dante Scott, and we're just going to let him bring the ball up. But this is the first time since I've watched Amir Sims play, I was like, this guy's going to mess around and get drafted, and I'm going to show you why. The biggest question mark with Amir is, can he guard on the perimeter? Look, this is 92 feet from the floor. Guarding the ball, turning his hips, getting back in front. Look at the activity off the ball. Honor knows what he's going. You got communication on the backside.
Nice hedge out there, too.
Excellent hedge everywhere. Good off-the-ball activity. Look at Clyde Trapp. Look at the collapse on defense. Everybody, the activity was amazing. Typically, you don't help from the ball side corner, but they saw that they were a little bit out of sorts. Alamir Dawes stepped in, took the charge. A great possession. Now, offensively, they played with pace. That's the biggest part of Clemson's game. playing with pace. There's going to be times, if there's times like last year, they would take momentary lapses where they don't cut as hard off the ball, they don't pass and move like they should. This team, 4 games into the season, now it's early, they haven't shown any, signs of slowing down. So, I'm going to show a couple of offensive clips. I believe this is the first possession of the second half. Run a little dribble handoff action. Look at the pace. Quick cuts, quick handoff. Look at the pace. Don't have anything, swing it. If Clemson's able to play at this pace against a team like Maryland that likes to switch everything, you're going to confuse them, Faxon. There's so much going on, it makes switchable actions really difficult. And whenever they're running as much weave action as they were right there, it's going to make it hard.
And it really helps that everyone on Clemson's team generally has a good shot selection. And they know when to shoot, when they're open, and they know when they need to get a shot off. And a lot of players on the team, as you were saying, extremely unselfish. They're looking to pass first, and that creates open players all around. And you could hear Brad when you're at the game telling them, move it, move it, move it. And that's just great job coaching by him. He knows that they can get Maryland all out of sorts. And Maryland looked lost all night defensively last night.
Absolutely. And one of the big parts about this whole thing, and I don't think it gets enough credit, but when your best player is your most unselfish player and he's your leader, it's usually not a bad thing. Amir Sims will let that ball go because he knows the opportunities are going to create themselves. What does that do? That rubs off on those other guys. You're going to see. Clyde Trapp didn't used to be like that. He'd hang on to it. He wouldn't get rid of it. He did it a little bit last night in the press. But you saw the pace they played with. Clyde Trapp took one shot, and he was happy as anybody that they won.
And a lot of this is also, you can attribute defense turning into offense. When you're getting a lot of stops, it's a lot easier to become unselfish with the ball on offense and move at that pace. And, you know, I think for Clemson, the key is if they are focused on defense from the beginning of the game, they're going to be a really tough team to beat because you can just see that this team feels different from other teams of years past. And I got to give a lot of credit to that to Brad. Great group of guys, and should be a really good season ahead of us.
Well, you recruit to what you're most comfortable coaching.
Yeah.
And he's got those individuals right now. Now, I know I'm singing Amir Sims' praises, but quite frankly, I put him on second team All-ACC, and I hope I'm wrong. I think I'm going to be wrong the way he's playing now. But I wanted to show this clip simply for this. Senior recognition of plays. So you notice now they have a big size mismatch. Jonathan Baer's in the game. So I'm just going to let this clip roll, and I'm going to kind of talk us through how we're playing. Look, now you have a size mismatch. Everybody sees it. See, Amir knows this has already happened. So he's going to let this play run through. Jonathan Baer's running, trying to post up. He sees it. So what does Amir do? He goes down to the low post, swings the ball, goes down here. Why does he do that? You're going to see here in a second. 5 men who are able to recognize this are going to make a lot of money at one place or another. So he sees that he's being fronted. What does Amir do? Other side clears out. Good recognition by these guys. Amir Sims goes high post. This is a senior move right here. And that's about as easy a 2 as you're going to get in college basketball. Look, this team, the way they play with their continuity, the way they play defensively with their energy, I don't see why it's not a top 4 team after these first 4 games, Faxon. This has been an exciting group of individuals.
And like you were saying with Amir Sims just showing that praise, him pulling that 5-man out to the perimeter, because you have to respect him from long range. Shot 40% from there a year ago. Just a legitimately incredible player. And I think that he's there's a chance he gets some All-America praise if he keeps up playing like this. Going to have to get those stats up. I mean, a lot of it is stats, but just when you look at the impact he has on the team, you can't even describe it.
Well, and you're letting Clemson's old. The rotations were really good. I was going to show a couple of more clips, but I figured it may take too long, Faxon. I love the way this team rotates defensively as well. You saw Alamir Dawes take a charge right there. There's a couple of other plays that you don't really notice that are happening. Jonathan Baer is 24 years old. He's been in college forever. He understands positioning defensively. He understands when to move. There was a time yesterday where Clemson missed a rotation on the defensive end. The next time Jonathan Baer picked it right up. It's a really good team. I'm really excited about watching them for the rest of the season, Faxon.
It should be a fun ride, and I really can say with confidence this is the first time that I am stupidly confident that Clemson will make the NCAA tournament since that Sweet 16 year. Got a really good group. This is if there's ever a chance for Clemson to make a run in the ACC or NCAA tournament, this will be the year, just because you have so much talent at a young age with the freshmen and PJ, Omax, Lenkid, and you've got vets like Clyde Trapp, and your best player is a senior, and then Jonathan Baird added in. It's just the perfect mix of guys. And why can't we contend in the ACC? Why can't this bunch?
It's funny. I don't want to jump the gun and say it's going to happen, but the manner in which they're playing, they're going to give other teams problems. Even the Carolinas, who like to play up and down. I think that's a team that's kind of sneakily getting better, even though they're 2-2. Carolina. I'm going to talk about them here in a little bit too. But we also have T.O.'s Terminal, flying or falling. There's a few teams on this list that out of nowhere started playing better, and one of them was one of my higher seeded teams that struggled to start out with. Finally started practicing together, and now they reel off 2 big wins in Georgia Tech.
Yeah, in Georgia Tech, you can see, I don't know what's gone into their different coaching-wise or game plan-wise, but they look like a completely different team. They look like the team that we got up on the show and predicted preseason to be an elite team in the ACC, and DeVoe, Alvarado, and Smith just killing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could tell the first couple of games they were out of sorts. Here's T.O.'s Terminal. You got the plane down there. The graphics weren't good enough where I could keep everything going, so I'm just going to make it small down there at the bottom. See the arrow up. We're going to start with Georgia Tech. Pastor wasn't practicing all of his guys together. Mike DeVoe, Jordan Usher was really forcing it, and Jose Alvarado actually struggled with foul trouble at Nebraska. They were still able to get it done. That's a team that's getting better quickly. Rodney Howard, he's not James Banks like we've said, but it's a team that continues to kind of gather momentum, and they're old and they have shot makers.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Big win over a ranked Kentucky team, which I have a feeling will very soon change, but the game was never competitive. GT blew them out of the building. And you got to think to yourselves, if GT keeps up this pace going forward, they're really going to regret those 2 games they dropped at the beginning of the year, because those are going to be looked at as bad losses by the committee for the tournament. So if they're a French team, that's going to be major regret on their end.
Yeah, I'm a little shocked. I think it might be forgiven because of the manner in which everything's going, but this is a team that could be in the top 7 of the conference. Your top 7 in the conference is not going to really matter. They're probably going to get in. Talented, have guards, good players. Florida State reeled off a big one against a very good Indiana team who I think could compete not for first or second. That's Iowa and Illinois. But I think Indiana could be that 3rd or 4th seed in the Big Ten. And Scotty Barnes, the 6'9" freshman, first team All-ACC in the preseason, according to the magazine, if he got it, really showed up and impressed.
And Scotty Barnes, it just really shows how mature he is at his age already, that he did not have a fantastic game for his standards in this game against Indiana. But down the stretch, he was the best player on the floor, and there was no question about it. He ended up getting a game winner in overtime off of a nice Euro step. It may have been a little fudgy with the travel rule, but we're going to give it to him. We're going to call it the gather step. Fantastic shot by him, and he also hit a 3 to tie the game prior to that. So Florida State, man, Leonard Hamilton never goes away. They never go away.
It's unbelievable, and they keep throwing bodies on you. Raekwon Gray was really good, and he only continues to impress with his big size, ability to do everything on the floor. I think he's got to be 280 pounds at 6'7". A unique athlete. You could probably see him Jimmy Grahaming it a little bit later, but he's their version of Draymond Green. He passes it, he moves it through the offense, and he's really competitive defensively. Miami was an unbelievable performance against a good Purdue team. Miami was missing Chris Likes. That was announced right before the game. If I was a betting man, and I'm not, but if I was, and I knew Chris Likes was going to miss that game, there was no way that they were going to be able to compete with Purdue, and they were able to pull it off.
And, just goes to show, you're down 20 with 15 minutes left and you don't have your best player. There's a lot of teams that are going to mail it in. And, you might think, why wouldn't they? Stuff like this is why they wouldn't. They started putting full court pressure on Purdue. They got that game on tilt. And, this is kind of a win-lose for Clemson fans, because you already have that win over Purdue, which was quality, so you're like, man, we wanted them to win. But Clemson does get Miami in the very near future, so got a chance to prove themselves against them too, and Miami looks very good.
You almost wonder if Miami's going to continue to do that pressure even after the win, because they have the guys to do it. Chris Likes can do that. He can get up into opposing guards much like Nick Honor does. Harlan Beverly can do it. Cam McGusty can do it. Isaiah Wong can do it. They have the athletes to pressure other teams' guards. I almost wonder if that's going to be able to follow through more than just the game against Purdue. Excellent performance by them. Now look, this team right here, North Carolina, they're 2-2. They just lost to Iowa. But let me guarantee you one thing. This team is right on track to, I think, compete to win this conference. One, because they're keeping them close. Iowa pulled away late. I like the direction of this team. Caleb Love is getting better. R.J. Davis is very solid. And they're huge inside.
Yeah, in North Carolina, I think they actually still had a chance to win this game, contrary to what the final score might lead you on to think. This game was tied with about 5 minutes left, and Iowa shot the ball. They shot the lights out in the first half. I think they had 8 first-half three balls in this game. So you got to think that North Carolina went on the road as a young team for the most part, especially you got a freshman point guard in Caleb Love, who I thought played a pretty good game. And they competed against who is most people's pick to be the player of the year, and Luka Garza, who they shut down.
Fat guy vibes.
Yeah, Luka Garza did not do a whole lot for his standards against North Carolina. He did not shoot the ball very well, missed some shots that he typically makes. So I was very impressed by North Carolina, even in a loss. And I was the top 3 team in the country. You can't expect Florida State or UNC rather to go in there and win that game.
I think 2 out of the top 4 teams in the country reside in the Big Ten: Iowa and Illinois. Now, as far as falling, this is about as big a no-brainer as I've ever had. I'm going to save them for a second because there's a lot that's gone on in the last 20 minutes. But we're going to talk a little bit about Virginia Tech. They fooled us, Faxon. I wrote it down. I was like, is it a flash in the pan? I don't know. But they played Villanova, beat them last year. Played Michigan State and Maui, beat them. And then you just kind of tailed off. Didn't play very well against VMI. And then, I don't know how to put this eloquently, crap the bed in their Big Ten ACC.
Oh, they got ran out of the building by Penn State. It was
and who's not a great team, by the way.
It was a 30-point game, and Penn State's best 2 players are now in the NBA from last year, and they lost their 3rd guy too. This Penn State team was supposedly in a rebuild year, is what the impression that the majority of the fan base was under. But this Virginia Tech team is so unpredictable that I have a feeling this is not going to be the only time they're in back-to-back episodes on the terminal going up and down. I feel like this is going to be this year for Virginia Tech. They're going to be an up-and-down team, and let's hope Clemson catches them in a couple weeks on that downward spiral.
And they start out against Virginia Tech in ACC play. Look, this is a team that can shoot you out of the gym, but sometimes when you rely too much on the 3 ball, you can get burnt. Penn State, is not great this year. Virginia Tech just hasn't played well over the past 3 or 4 games. Really disappointed in them. You would think that they would be able to continue some momentum coming off of Villanova, but haven't done very well. Look, Duke's next. And there's a whole myriad of problems. I'm going to let you address the things after the game that occurred because I don't really want to that much.
Okay.
But Duke has all kinds of problems on the court. Forget the off-the-court issues. Wendell Moore hasn't been good. He's been awful. I question a little bit, and I hate to question Coach K's coaching. I question other things. But I hate to question his coaching because they're running all their offense through Matthew Hurt. If I'm Duke, I'm running things through Jalen Johnson and making him penetrate because he can make other guys better. This is a team that does not have an identity offensively and are really out of sorts, and they're turning it over at a high rate. They've tried to pressure, haven't been able to generate their own energy, and I think there's a big part of this. Cameron Indoor is empty.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot going on. And the Duke Blue Devils are awfully cool sitting down there on the bench. They try to kind of gather some momentum for each other, and it doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem there. They need to figure out ways to get Jalen Johnson more involved in the decision-making on the court because Matthew Hurt, if he's not scoring, he's not doing anything else for your team.
And you have a problem when your glue guy, Jordan Goldwire, leads the team in assists. That is not his job at all. And Duke has so many issues.
I would argue that Jordan Goldwire is the only guy that has played really well for him.
He has. He's been fantastic this year. And I think a lot of that is indicative that Stewart has been terrible playmaking-wise this year, averaging almost more turnovers than assists. Jalen Johnson, I feel like he's not fully integrated into the game or the offense yet. Part of that might be they haven't practiced a ton together, but he looks uncomfy out there at times, and he's the guy. He's going to be a first-round pick in the NBA draft. He needs to be the focal point in the offense, like you said, instead of Hurt. But this team has a ton of issues to address. I feel like they're lazy on defense and on the defensive glass specifically, which is something you're not used to seeing out of a Duke team. Because
they're not as big either.
They're not as big.
We got to give them a little credit. And Matthew Hurt, that's not him. Like, if we're going to be honest about this whole thing, and I interrupted you, Fax, and I apologize for that, but Matthew Hurt is not a good rebounder. He's not a good passer. He is a scorer only. And then you have Jalen Johnson beside him, who's really more of a 2-3. Why not move him to handling the ball more and then bring Mark Williams in there. I don't understand how we're going. Jalen Johnson's not a great shooter, but at least you can put some pressure on the rim. It's a really dysfunctional, unorganized team that I'm not really sure is going to be able to fix it.
I'm not sold on them going forward, and overreacting is one thing, but when you look at like you were saying, the critical issues they have in this team, I don't know, par change and like massive rotation change, I don't know what they can do to get their season trending upward. There's not a lot of shooting threat on this team. Their best shooter is Matthew Hurt, who they're playing primarily on the low block. He's not getting a ton of shooting opportunities. Stewart isn't the best shooter. Johnson is not a great shooter at all. Wendell Moore just can't shoot.
He's been brutal. I'm shocked at how bad he's been, quite frankly. And his confidence is maybe that's who Coach K is talking about as far as mental health is concerned, because I worry. Like I'm curious at what's going on, because he's not able to finish at the rim. He can't hit a jump shot. He hasn't even passed the ball well, and he's not defending at a high level anyway. This is a team that's got a lot of problems, and you can see the huge effect that not having a summer to work out in Cameron has had. This is a team that's struggling right now significantly, and I don't like the way this Duke team is going. Now, it just came out about 3 minutes ago, or no, 15 minutes ago. We're pretty deep into the show right now, that Duke is not going to play any more non-conference games. Coach K came out and said he doesn't think we should be playing the season. Faxon, I'm just going to let you take it from here. Is he saying this stuff right now if they're 4-0?
Oh, 100% not. And you got to remember, like, I know you're going to probably be conservative on this, but I'm going to go in on Coach K a little bit.
Do it.
Listen, this was the guy that was caping to play before the season and last year during the tournament, saying that these kids need to play, which is the stance that I have, and it's an understandable take. Mm-hmm. But you cannot double-cross yourself because you lost 2 games at home. You can't come out and say after you lose 2 games, I really question why we were playing in a pandemic. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. If you would have won those games, that comment would have never been made, and we would be having an entirely – we would probably just still be talking about how trash the team is, even if they had won, because – Let's face it, they're not great.
This is a team that's going to struggle all year. They don't have enough shooting.
I think Coach K probably knows that in the back of his head, so he's coming out and he's taking the stance of there are bigger issues right now than basketball, and I think that is pretty scummy on his part, because he was just caping 3 months ago that these kids need to play, and now he's completely flipped his stance over 2 non-conference games, and then Duke cancels the rest of their non-conference schedule. So it's a really poor look.
It's a little bit of a save face opportunity, but I'm not going to talk about that. What he's actually saying, like the concern for the kids, I appreciate that, being able to try to take care of your players, but you can't do it after a loss, one, and you can't go back directly against what you're saying. I will say this, however. Hypothetical situation, Nick Honor goes home for Christmas break. He's from Florida. Florida has no restrictions. Where do you think these students are safer? Do you think they're safer at home with their families, where everybody's coming in to meet, or do you think they're safer in a bubble? Look, I understand they're amateurs. I understand they're spending a lot of time away from their family. I understand they want to go home for Christmas. But look, everybody in the country right now is making sacrifices to what they have to do every day. I disagree with what Coach K said, as you did. Not the same way, I don't think. But the system's working fine. We're playing over 85% of our games thus far this season. There are going to be cancellations, but that just shows that the system is working. Enjoy what we're able to get and let them reschedule these games or schedule somebody close. It doesn't make any sense to just throw your hands up and just cancel the rest of the season. It doesn't make any sense. It's a little bit of a weak move.
You're throwing up the white flag because you lost 2 games, and it just really does not make sense to me, and I don't think that this conversation would be having, maybe from different people, but from Duke, because they lost these games. Hopefully Duke continues on this downward spiral for Clemson's sake. No offense to the Blue Devil fans out there.
They'll be okay.
I think you guys can have your 5 national titles, and we'll be just fine with one bad season.
Well, North Carolina had their year last year. It's looking more and more like Duke's going to have their year this year. Guys, if you are watching live, make sure you type in a question or two. If you have anything as the show goes on, let us know, and we'll address it as it goes on. Look, it's a tough situation for everybody involved. You got to respect the amount of sacrifice that these kids are making. But they're safer on campus. They're safer in these bubbles. Why do I say that? Clemson, for example, sent all their students home at Thanksgiving. It only makes sense. These kids are living in their own bubble. Right now, they're the only people on campus. Look, this is working. Keep it moving. Don't listen to that. Everything else is working. So without further ado, look, we had a new segment. I talked a little bit to my main man, Faxon, about this. Why did I talk to him about this? Because he's up at 4 o'clock in the morning watching West Coast Conference basketball. So I'm like, well, I need to put this to use a little bit. So He watches everybody. He's a lot like I am, a basketball nut. So we're going to do this. We're going to call this Big Facts Underrated Player of the Week. And I'm going to let it and take it away as soon as he gets up here to the board. My man Faxon, he's looking sharp. He dressed up today. He's ready to go. He's showing some professionalism. You got to love it. Big Faxon, who we got?
So here we are. This is the debut of the segment. This is the first underrated player of the week. Is Colby Ross out of Pepperdine. Pepperdine beat Cal last night pretty substantially. I know you lost your picks on that off of Twitter. But Ross is averaging 18 points, 4 boards, 7 assists on 45% shooting this year. These are honestly down numbers for him so far. He's not getting as much usage as you can look over here. Last year, he was the only player in the entirety of Division I to average 20 and 7. Fantastic season from him last year. First team all West Coast Conference these past 2 seasons, and Pepperdine's now all-time leading scorer and assist man. Fantastic player. They've got 2 guys over there, Kessler Edwards and Colby Ross, that are both just absolutely phenomenal players.
And is this a potential All-American? That's my first question. My second question is, how's Pepperdine going to do in the West Coast Conference? Are they going to be somebody that's going to be able to carry the load and get to Gonzaga, or is it somebody that's 2nd, 3rd, 4th seed?
Well, what I personally think is that Pepperdine will be a top 4 seed in the West Coast Conference. When you look at their schedule already this year, they lost in triple overtime with some pretty suspect officiating to UCLA. They just blew a 15-point lead to San Diego State. They were up a half. I think this is a team that cannot compete with Gonzaga because just honestly the playing field is unfair with Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference. But we saw last year Pepperdine went all the way to the quarterfinals. They got 2 wins, and they took St. Mary's to double OT in the conference tournament last year in the conference quarters. Colby Ross, this guy right here, had 43 in that game. So you know he's going to step up for them in these big games. And it should be interesting to see how they handle these teams like St. Mary's, San Francisco, Gonzaga in their regular season schedule. And then maybe we can retouch on this later on about how they're going to do in the West Coast Conference tournament. Maybe even get a tourney big. They could shock Gonzaga. Who knows?
Yep. It could be a 2-big league if they keep to upset some of these Power 5.
I think they could get 3. I think that St. Mary's could get in. I think that Gonzaga will get in 100%. And then if someone else wins the tournament, San Francisco could get a non-con bid because they got that big win over Virginia early in the year, and they're typically pretty good. Or Pepperdine might get in. They had a big win last night, so we'll see.
And they have somebody with him, correct?
Yes, they have Kessler Edwards. Kessler Edwards is around the same points per game wise. He's a wing, big guy, and his brother graduated last year, Cam Edwards, and they kind of had a big 3 last year. I would say the team was better last year than this year. This year they've got a little bit more depth, but it should be really exciting to see what they can do going forward. And this is one of the best duos in the country. They put up almost 40 points per game together, and no one talks about them. So just here to give them a shout out and put them on notice.
There you have it. My man Faxon, thank you very much. The Big Facts Underrated Guy of the Week. You can bring the camera for me. You want information, Big Facts has got it. That's all I'm going to say. Big Facts. Knows everything. Finding his way back to his seat. Do you have any on-the-line games at all?
I think one on-the-line game we're going to do tonight would be the Arizona State versus San Diego State game. This is at 10 o'clock tonight. Arizona State is currently 2.5-point favorites, so we'll have to see how that goes.
Yep. Who do you pick on that one?
I'm going to pick San Diego State as the underdog. I mean, it's pretty much just picking them to win the game with a line that small, but I think that they're going to win this game.
So you like San Diego State and Tempe?
I do.
I'm going Arizona State. Josh Christopher's been fantastic. Bobby Hurley's a heck of a coach. San Diego State is good, but I like Arizona State to potentially win the Pac-12. Nice team. They've got scorers all over the place. Remy Martin's been good. I like Arizona State now in a close one, but I actually think that they cover. Florida and Florida State play this weekend, and I believe it's at Florida State, Faxon. Is that correct?
I think it is at Florida State, yes, and this is actually a very intriguing game. We don't have a line on this game yet, but if I had to just pick based off of what I've seen so far, I will be picking Florida State in that game, mainly due to Scotty Barnes. I think this is actually going to be a really high-scoring, up-tempo game, and it will be one that I'm definitely tuning into.
I'm worried about this one for Florida State, and I'm going to tell you why. Trey Mann is a dude. Scotty Lewis is really good as a kind of a utility player. Trey Mann is going to be able to create shots, even though Scotty Barnes is going to be able to present a lot of problems with his length and athleticism. Look, I love this Florida State team, but if Florida is able to play in the same manner in which they beat Boston College, I have to pick Florida. They're going to have to shoot the ball well, obviously, because they're going to be able to create some help situations, but Florida offensively is gifted.
they're a very good offensive team. And hey, we got two differing this week after we had straight in line these past couple weeks. So a little bit of competition here going forward. Should be excited to watch both of those games.
Yeah, I'm excited about both of them. Look, it's a game that the ACC needs, quite frankly, especially after some of their showing towards the top end. ACC needs Florida State to play well. ACC needs Clemson to play well this weekend against Alabama. We're going to go ahead and move on to Alabama. Nate Oates, in his second year, just made some headway because he, in his press conference, addressed the whole Coach K situation, saying, if he was 4-0, do you think he'd really be doing this? Coach Nate Oates said that. Look, you got to like his bravado, you got to like his attitude, and they've shown that they can recruit. Alabama's building 16-15 a year ago, and Nate Oates likes to play up tempo.
Yes, this Alabama team, they're going to push the pace on Clemson, and this should be a very interesting game from the perspective of what will Brad Brownell and the Tigers try and do to either get them to play to their pace, or do they think they can outscore them in a shootout and beat them at their own game?
Yeah, and they've got these three guys right here. They start out with Javon Quinterly, transfer from Villanova, averaging north of 15 points a game. He's kind of the straw that stirs the drink. He's going to push it up in transition. He's going to be able to get buckets. I hate this little jelly fam thing that he's part of, Faxon. I absolutely hate it. I don't know where it came from. I don't think it does any good to anybody. But he was made famous because of that. Struggled to get going at Villanova, but a multi-dimensional offensive point guard that can create for others, and he's really fast in the open floor.
Yes, and like you said, 15 points a game. Doesn't shoot it poorly from deep either. Kind of the main and feature scorer on this Alabama team. I think he's probably going to get his 15 against Clemson as well. It'll be interesting to see who do you think will be the matchup to start the game for Quinterly for the Tigers.
I think it's going to be interesting. You might see Brad Brownell go small initially and go Nick Honor and Alamir to start the game. Why? Because you'll be able to deny that first pass, and they'll be able to find their guys quickly. You have to cut off that inbounds pass because you're going to be able to score. This is a team that averaged north of 80 points a game last season, and they give up a lot of points as well. A lot of teams that run really fast don't get back really fast. They're running uphill on defense and downhill on offense. Alabama has a little bit of that, but they've gotten some good wins so far. Look, John Petty, a senior from Huntsville, Alabama, right at 6'5". I feel like he's been at Bama forever. Very good player, plus shooter, and he's kind of turned in. I think he's averaging north of 14 points a game. These three in particular are going to be the ones you need to stop. Yeah,
and Petty's around 14 a game, 14.8 to be precise. And he's around a similar shooting level to Quinterly as far as from deep. They're around that 33 to 35% range. And, really good player. Should be interesting to see I'm just confused as to what the Tigers starting lineup is going to be. I think that we might see what you said with Honor and Dawes to start the game because there are a lot of guards and fast players on the team for Clemson to handle. So this should be a really interesting gauge game for the Tigers.
What's interesting to me is where Alabama plays Petty. Does he play small ball 4? Does he start at the 3? If he starts at the 3, you got John Newman.
Yep.
It's pretty comparable athletic-wise. Look, and then you have Jaden Shackelford, a guard, 6'3", 200 from California, came all the way over to Alabama, also averaging 14 points a game. Guys, I think it's 4 guys that average more than 10 points a game. All 3 of these average more than 14 a game. It's a team that goes up and down. It's going to be a lot of fun. Keys for Clemson. What are the keys for Clemson? You have to deny that inbounds pass after you score. They don't care if you score. It's just a quicker way for them to get the ball back. They're taking it out of the net and they're pushing up. If you're able to make that first pass inbounds difficult, you're going to have success defensively. Another thing, they only average 13 seconds per possession. It's good for second in the country or very low. This is a team that wants to get them up quick. They want to get shots up fast, and they want to get you to play their game. Can Clemson play that game? Absolutely. Are they more comfortable playing a little bit slower? I do believe so. Look, you move the ball, use the shot clock on several possessions just to kind of slow up Alabama's rhythm. This is not a team that loves to guard for the full 30 seconds. I feel like this is a game that Clemson should win going away.
Yes, and we do have a question coming in from Hart Rayleigh on Facebook. He says that he does not think Brad went as deep into the bench for as long last night against Maryland. And I'm just going to add on to that question. How deep do you think the leash is on the bench, and how many minutes do you see P.J. Hall and Omax getting in this game? Because personally, I think this is a game where Omax could get a lot of minutes.
It depends on matchups. I thought Omax would play last night more.
Yeah.
But with Maryland pressuring the way they were, you needed that stable 5 guy in the middle of the pressure. So what does that mean? Amir Sims, whenever he was able to catch it, and turn and run some things through or finish the break, it made a significant difference in the press offense. That's just a good thing about having a senior as talented as Amir Sims. But as far as PJ is concerned, look, he's still a freshman. That's one of the problems you're going to have, but that's a good thing because you have such great kids on your team. You have too much talent on the team. And another thing is they're okay with not playing. You want to see P.J. Hall more because he's a local product, top 50 kid, yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, Amir brings so much value. And like I've said before, they don't necessarily play well together because they do the same things well. And it's not an easy matchup to put them in together. But I think Omax could see more minutes this game. But
the up-tempo seems to suit his play style more. I feel like he could be a valuable weapon to get out on the break, and he can ball handle too, coming down off the defensive glass.
But I want you to, he's been playing the 4.
Yeah.
So, like, Brad hasn't been using him on the perimeter as much. So you're looking at John Baer, your first 4, Hunter Tyson second, and then Omax. So where do you go from there? You go from John Baer, one of your most athletic players, an excellent help side defender, to Hunter Tyson, probably your best out-of-area rebounder, and then Omax, who's still trying to learn some things because you got to remember they didn't get a summer. This is a huge roster with a lot of different talented players, and some of these freshmen just going to have to be a little bit patient, and things are going to open up. You got to remember, Jonathan Baer leaves after this year. Amir Sims will leave after this year. Clyde Trapp probably will leave after this year. I know they get an extra year, but they've got guys coming in. So you can only have a certain amount of scholarships, which is a whole nother issue. But I like this team. Thank you, Hart, very much for the question. If we have any more,
we do have another question. I know that we've been talking Clemson up a lot on this show so far, and rightfully so. But I feel like that probably stems this question. It's from John on Facebook, and he says, what is the biggest weakness with this Clemson team?
Shooting. I worried as far as at the beginning of the seasons, I had two things that could hold the Tigers up. One of them was shooting, and the other one was who's your explosive guy, the guy who could get you points in a hurry. Nick Honor's proven to be that guy. Alamir Dawes has proven to be able to do that this season, and they've had other guys step in. When you get 25 bench points, you're able to keep that momentum going, but you have that explosive scorer now with Nick. Problem is, if you don't hit about 30 to 35% of your threes, you're really going to be off rhythm, and you hope your defensive intensity can stay the same. Guys, John, thank you. Hart, thank you very much for your questions. Guys, continue to send them in.
We do have more questions.
We have more questions. Go ahead and bring them in, baby.
We have another question.
I'm fired up right now.
We've got a question coming from Mark on YouTube, and he says, it might not matter because of COVID and what's going on right now, but what is the environment like on a neutral court since that this Clemson-Alabama game is a neutral court game, and what is your experience with neutral courts?
There's not going to be anybody there for this one, but the very comparable thing for me this season with some of these big venue empty courts is we played down in Puerto Rico when I was a freshman and had the same kind of environment. We only had 15 people travel with us. It's not really that much different. Players play. Now, where the difference is when you're playing at Duke or Cameron and people start to get a little tight when the volume goes up. You're missing a lot of that this season. But for the most part, I haven't seen any drop in intensity. They played at a junior college down in Florida for this Space Shuttle Challenge or whatever, Space Coast Challenge, and there was no drop in intensity. I actually thought it brought on the ambiance a little more because it was just you against them, and it made it as simplistic as possible.
I agree, and I feel like this Clemson team, from what we've seen so far, really can motivate themselves and create energy for themselves.
Yeah, and they have that explosive, dynamic playmaker in Nick Hunter. Is that all we got for questions?
We have one more question, and it's from Joanne from Greenville. She says, if you were Coach Brownell, how do you keep your guys humble and motivated going forward after this hot start?
Well, and I'm just going to speak from experience because I worked for the guy for a while, but after every game you do a good tape and you do a bad tape, and there's always stuff on that bad tape. I don't care how good you played. Look, in the first half, the two breakdowns were pretty noticeable. It was a backdoor cut and a wide open layup in the first half on a miscommunication. You can't emphasize those things, but hey, you got to be honest with these kids. They know when you're kind of BSing them a little bit to where it's not genuine. You have to be happy with your performance. You encourage your guys. There are always things that you can get better, but of course, there are always things as well that you can kind of pick at and make sure that guys understand.
So that's a great answer, and I would agree with that. But I can't speak from that experience. Like
you haven't been a coach. You haven't been a coach. I'm coaching 8-year-olds in Central right now, so I'm trying to build them up as well.
Are you guys going to the film? You guys getting filmed?
Yeah, I'm going to film them up. There's no doubt about it. I'm filming these kids up, all the zone actions, the whole nine. Like we're boxing one, the whole tidbit. So is that all we got?
That is all we have. Yes.
That's a good show.
Yeah, definitely.
Good show, not bad, guys. A lot of happening. A great game. I am going to be down in Alabama with the great Don Munson. We're going to be on the call again. I'm super excited about this game. I don't know that I'm going to be able to talk much simply because Alabama's up and down the entire game. But, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to be putting a pregame preview as well, probably on Friday, the day before we travel down, just so you'll be up to date on how everything's going and things to look for during the match. I think I've been pretty consistent in finding out what Clemson needs to do to win throughout the year. So make sure you check that out. And thank you very much. I am Terrence Oglesby. This was episode 6, I believe, of Let It Fly with Terrence Oglesby. Thank you for attending.